Today we're going to conclude the NFC East talking about our Super Bowl 59 champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk about where I had them in August, what actually happened, what went right, and ultimately what now and how the Eagles can get better. But before we officially begin, all right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. Welcome in to Predictions versus Reality. The off-season series continues here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into it, if you know about Predictions versus Reality and what we're doing here, you can go ahead and drop to the timestamp down below and continue on. If you don't know, I made scheduled prediction videos back in August, projecting every single final record for every NFL team. So we're just going to look back at that and where I had them, and then we're going to go into the present and talk about what happened with this team's season, and then we'll talk about how they can get better. So let's get right into it. So the Philadelphia Eagles, where did I have them in August? I had this team at 12-5. I had this team going 12-5 because, number one, I had this team bouncing back. The loss against Tampa in the wild card round was terrible. It was disappointing. And after that game, people were clamoring, Eagles fans were clamoring for Nick Sirianni to be fired. And in retrospect, yeah, people were too far ahead of themselves. But there was a significant reason why people were upset. It was because this team in 2023 had started off 11-1 and then finished 11-6 or 12-5. Or no, it was something like that. They were like really, really hot, and then they got really cold at the end, kind of like what the Pittsburgh Steelers did here in 2024. And they kind of they stumbled their way into the playoffs, got their butts kicked, and this team just, after losing the Super Bowl, it felt like a Super Bowl hangover type of year. And so I thought this year, okay, look, they're still good. They're still going to be in the playoffs, but they first off got massive upgrades at coordinator. After Jonathan Gannon on the defensive side and Shane Steichen left to be head coaches, the two guys they had in place both lost their jobs at some point during the year, losing play calling duties, and they got fired. And then so you get Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator from LA at the time, who was with Dallas and had success there. And then you get Vic Fangio from Miami to be your defensive coordinator, who had a lot of success under Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota Vikings he was known for. But also he was the head coach of Denver, and their defense was good there too when he was there. So you get an upgrade at coordinator, and also the moves that they made in the draft and free agency. This team, I thought on paper going into the year, was better than it was in 2023. So it's like, okay, 12-5 solid. Here is a bounce back year incoming for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, they did more than just bounce back. They won the freaking Super Bowl. What happened? They ended up going 14-3, and their offense finished 8th, which honestly was one of the best. Well, it was one of the best offenses in the NFL. Saquon Barkley leading the way there on it. Jalen Hurts playing really, really good, clean football. And their defense, though, finished first. This defense was the most dominant unit in 2024. They were almost perfect. They were great. They were literally just, oh my God. They were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. I have no other words to put it. They were just absolutely incredible. So what went right? What went right with the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, the first one, as I mentioned, the coordinators ended up being a massive, massive upgrade. Kellen Moore's system made it really help Jalen Hurts become a lot more comfortable, along with Saquon Barkley coming in there. We got to see a side of Kellen Moore that we really didn't see. We were known for him being, the OC in Dallas and the OC in LA with the Chargers, which both those offenses are more pass-based. They're more high-volume passing compared to running the football a whole ton. And he was able to shift his philosophy to really cater to the skill set of these players on offense, and it worked really, really well. And then you look at Vic Fangio on the defensive side of the ball. Vic Fangio has always coached great defenses. People call him one of the greatest defensive minds of all time, and they practically ran him out of town in Miami. And he comes here and wins a Super Bowl in year one against Kansas City, right? Which, decimated his career in Denver. So he's got a lot of history there. And they were just massive upgrades. They were absolutely massive upgrades, and it put this team over the top with better coaching. And then Saquon Barkley, not much more I can say about Saquon Barkley that hasn't already been said, but he was really the cherry on top of this entire team. You had a great defense. You had the quarterback. You had the receivers, the offensive line. The only thing was you needed an elite running back to really take this offense over the top, and that's what Saquon Barkley did for them. He was the engine of this offense. He was almost everything to this offense. Saquon Barkley was one of the biggest reasons why they went on the Super Bowl run that they did. And the reason why the offense was able to have success in the Super Bowl was because the threat of Saquon Barkley of doing something big, he was so threatening that the Chiefs literally sold out to stop him and then let the passing game and then Jalen Hurts with his legs completely take over the game. And Kansas City had no answer for their offense. They had no idea how to stop it. The next thing is the trenches. Their offensive line, they've continued as they've lost pieces, right? Jason Kelsey retired, and then they lost, I can't remember their guard. I think, was it Kevin? No, it wasn't Kevin Zeitler. No, I can't remember who it was on their right guard before in 2023, but he had left. And then, so Cam Jurgens takes Kelsey's place at center, Pro Bowl year one. Mekhi Becton comes in, plays right guard, has the best year of his career to that point. And then you look at the trenches, what they've been able to do there. They drafted Nakobe Dean, right? Or was it is it Nakobe Dean? Or is it oh my God, who's the linebacker? I think the linebacker's Nakobe Dean. It's Nolan Smith. Yeah, it's Nolan Smith. They draft Nolan Smith in the first or second round. You draft Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, both with top 10 picks, which were both are really good players. You drafted Milton Williams, right? And then you I think you also, I don't think they drafted Josh Sweat. I think they signed him from somewhere, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. But either way, the trenches, most of this was built through the draft. It was just built with solid, great, talented players. And what this Super Bowl proved was that you need to have a great offensive line and a great defensive line to win. And winning football games starts up front and it ends up front in the trenches. And now with seeing the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I think that's going to take a much bigger emphasis with team building this year. Is a lot of teams are going to draft multiple offensive linemen. They're going to draft multiple defensive linemen. We're going to see a lot of teams draft multiple players on one area of the ball to really build the trenches and really get those numbers and really get those players up and get the production up there, because it's going to start in there. So that's a trend that I'm hoping will continue. I'm anticipating that. And then the fourth thing that went right for the Philadelphia Eagles was Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, obviously not the best year on paper, nowhere near 2022, but he didn't need to be. He just needed to be clean, efficient, and not turn the ball over, and that's what Jalen Hurts did, and that's all you need him to be. Jalen Hurts is a great football player, and he's really talented, but the thing was, the reason why 2022 he had such great numbers was because he did not have the pieces around him, weapon-wise, that he does now. He didn't have Saquon Barkley. He didn't have Kenneth Gainwell as a solid backup option. Not to mention, the offensive line was still good, and the receivers, A.J. Brown was great, Devontae Smith was great, but really it's just Saquon Barkley in this running game that really helped him out and really helped his efficiency to where, okay, we don't have to put everything on our quarterback's plate. We don't have to do that. And there you go. They won a Super Bowl for that. And then lastly, mentioning, especially with the draft, Howie Roseman, huge shout out. Getting the free agents that they've been able to bring in. Almost all the starters on their team were players that they've drafted. So he's been great there. Howie Roseman is a wizard. He is a literal wizard. He's the best GM in the NFL. And sure, he's had a couple misses, but man, the dude has practically built a home run roster with just draft picks alone. What he's been doing with this Philadelphia Eagles organization these past few years has been incredible. And this team in 2024 is much better than the 2022 team. It is so much better, and it's crazy. It's crazy because all these players are younger. A lot of these players are younger that have replaced a lot of players on that 2022 team. And in a lot of ways, a lot of these players are better too. So it's been an absolute miracle that Howie Roseman has been able, not a miracle, but it's been a great thing that Howie Roseman has been able to build that team, and all the credit, not all the credit, but almost all the credit goes to him for what he's been able to do over the years to really make this team better and really, really improve it. So what now? What do the Philadelphia Eagles need to do to really get better and continue their Super Bowl window being open? Well, kind of like with the Washington Commanders in the last video. If you didn't see that, you should go check that out. The big three for the Philadelphia Eagles are three things: edge, safety, defensive tackle. Edge rusher. Josh Sweat is going to be a free agent, and Nolan Smith, he's a good edge rusher, but he doesn't have the talent to be a game-wrecking edge rusher. He's like an effort guy. He's an effort finisher, so if a play breaks down, that's where he's going to get his sacks and clean up, right? But you really need a edge rusher that can dominate. That can dominate like Hassan Reddick did in 2022. So, obviously, I'm looking at James Pierce Jr. if he falls. I'm looking at Mike Green, right? Like, James Pierce would be really good in Philly. You're talking about a guy who's extremely explosive, has good power, really good change of direction, great speed, ran a 4.47 at the combine, absolutely freakish athlete. You pair that with Vic Fangio and these two defensive tackles, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, that's going to be scary. That's going to be so scary because James Pierce has the potential to be a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL. He is so strong. He's so fast. And just his instincts are really great as well. So it's a great prospect to go there. Safety could be another move that they make in the first round. CJ Gardner-Johnson's a veteran. Reed Blankenship's all right. But he's probably the worst part of that defense, which isn't saying much because he had a really good year. But he's probably the worst part. I would like to see them add a really young, talented player there. Maybe if you don't go edge rusher, I don't think he's going to be, not Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks out of Georgia, he's going to be gone by that point. But maybe you get a guy in the second round, right? There's a lot of guys, what's his name? Nick Amenwari out of South Carolina, who had a great combine this weekend. So he could probably be on the board. I don't know where Amenwari is supposed to land. But if he's projected to go there and he can go there, maybe take a chance on a guy who's a freakish athlete, great size, great measurables, and you add on what he's been able to do in South Carolina. Okay, you might have a star safety on your hands with this great roster and great coaches around you. That's a great situation for a guy like Nick Amenwari to go. And then defensive tackle, I say defensive tackle because with Milton Williams leaving in free agency, probably going to leave in free agency, I would like them to continue to add a player there on day 3 to continue having a 3 defensive tackle rotation. Because the thing is, another thing that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to prove this year was that not only do you need good edge rushers, you need great defensive tackles. Your interior is so important on your defensive line. Having a guy like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, those guys that absolutely just disrupt in the interior, makes the edge rusher's job a lot easier. And so, along with that, you got to keep these guys healthy. These are big guys, right? So they can't go as long compared to an edge rusher or a corner. So you need a good third guy to rotate in and continue that production. That way, when Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis leaves, you don't have a gap missing because you have it's big step back in players. No, you need a guy that's obviously, he doesn't have to be that top tier guy. You don't want him to be that, but you want him to be a really good third man that can just rotate in and play productive. That's all you want. And I think you can get many of those guys in day 3. I'm looking at a guy like Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. I love that prospect personally. So that could be a great fit there. And the thing is, the Eagles, I think that they're going to take a step back. Not like a big one. I think they're not going to, it's going to be hard to go 13-4 or higher. It's going to be hard to do that again. But they really need to re-sign Zach Bond at linebacker. They need to figure out what they're going to do at right guard with Mekhi Becton being a free agent. There's not very many things this team needs other than outside of a couple spots to fill here and there and maybe retool a spot here and there. Maybe add a little bit more wide receiver depth because when when Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown went down, this passing game went to crap early on in the year. So adding some depth there would also help. But outside of that, this team's ready to run it back. This team is going to should be the Super Bowl favorite going into 2025. But even right now, I would say they're definitely going to be back in the divisional round at least. This team is still loaded. It is still really good. A lot of these players have not been paid yet either. So the Eagles are set to be a really good team for at least the next couple of years, which is really exciting because players like Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, these guys deserve to win championships. These are great players. They're great people. They deserve it almost more than anybody in the NFL. I love all those three guys, so let them keep winning. They absolutely deserve it. But that is going to do it for me today, guys, for the Philadelphia Eagles wrapping up the NFC East. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you've made it this far and you have enjoyed helping me. Pushing those two buttons helps me spread my football passion to more and more people on this platform. So that would be really important and really appreciate it if you guys would do that for me. Also, make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know where you guys think the Eagles are going to be next year. Who do you want them to draft in the first round? Let me know where you think they need to go in free agency. Also, make sure you guys share the video, whether it's by word of mouth or by sharing it on social media. Get everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. Become a Shumake Take fan today. Coming out with great content for you guys every single week. That is going to do it for me today, guys, though. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I will see you all next time.